Hi guys, it's Angie with Fun Endeavors Tie-Dye Lab. Today let's ice dye some pillowcases. The pillowcases are all 100% cotton, but I'm not entirely sure where they were purchased from. I am doing these for a friend, so I think she got them off of Amazon. My friend, as well as my two sons, are going on a mission trip to El Salvador, so she asked me if I would tie-dye 4 pillowcases for some of the girls, and I said sure. So she requested 3 purple and 1 pink. I only have a couple of days to get these done, so I'm going to do a design that's fairly simple. I'm going to do just a random sinew design. So for this design, I just gather areas of fabric from the pillowcase and tie a sinew line. Sometimes I gather a couple different areas and tie them with the same sinew line. This is going to give a white definition line in the pillowcase, so it will have a bit of a design, but because I'm not heavily bunching the fabric like I do when I do, like, say, a geode, I don't necessarily need to allow the fabric to dry out. I can go ahead and dye it immediately. So one very important thing to remember when you're doing pillowcases or any kind of bedding is you absolutely positively need to pre-wash your fabric. And you need to do it in some kind of like a textile detergent or something that's going to strip any of the coatings that they may have put on that fabric initially. That way you won't have any kind of issues with the fabric not accepting the dye properly. You know, I've really noticed that they do that sometimes with t-shirts and with t-shirt fabric. It really is a thing, but definitely with bedding. One package of these pillowcases, because they're actually 2 different kinds of pillowcases here, one package smelled really funky. So it definitely had some kind of a coating on it. And you want to get that off because you don't want to go to all the trouble of actually tie-dyeing your design and then have it either turn out pale or have some sort of issue because there was a coating on the fabric. So I washed these in hot water along with a little bit of Dharma's Professional Textile Detergent. Okay, so I've gone ahead and sped the video up because I tied all 4 of these basically the same way. I mean, the sinew lines are a little different on each one because they are random, but you get the idea. Okay, so I'm pulling out some strainers or colanders, which I'm going to dye these pillowcases in. The gray ones that I'm using, I actually purchased off a TikTok shop and they were super cheap, just a couple dollars each. I'm placing the colanders, which are expandable, over the top of plastic tubs or totes. And then my very last pillowcase, the one that's pink, I'm going to keep it separated and I'm going to put it in a plastic colander, which I purchased from the Dollar Tree dollar store. To keep the colander up off the bottom of the container, I'm going to place like a metal basket upside down in the bottom of the container and then place the colander on top. So for the purple ones, since they're not going to the same person, I thought I would make each one of them a little bit different. And I thought I would use some colors that have some good color splits and place the dye over the top of the ice. That way I think I'm going to see more of the cool color splits. So I'm starting out by adding ice to the top of all the pillowcases. On the first pillowcase, I'm going to use deep purple from Dharma Trading Company. I have just a little bit left in this container, so I'm just going to sprinkle it over the top. Then I'm going to open up a newer container and use a little bit of that too. If you'll notice, my older container, the deep purple is kind of more of a blue shade, but when I opened up a new container, it had a little bit more of a red tinge to it. It's probably just the age of the dye. I don't know. Now I'm going to add a little bit of dry soda ash over the top, and then I'm going to turn my tote around so that I can dye the other side. For the next pillowcase, I'm going to use Good Berry from Happy Cat Tie-Dye. This is the purple that has a little bit more blue in it than the deep purple. The deep purple has a little bit more red. This is about the time that I realized that in order to be able to tell which color was which, since two of these colanders were the same, I probably should label them all. So I grabbed some masking tape and wrote the colors on the end of the colander, just so that I could keep tabs on which color was which. They are different, but they're still purples, so, they look enough alike I didn't want to mix them up. I also noticed after watching this video back that I got distracted with the masking tape and never added an additional sprinkle of dry soda ash over the top of the good berry. So I guess I'll see if that makes any kind of a difference. So for the last purple one, I'm going to use Purple Twilight from Dye Spin. And Purple Twilight is one of the Dark Horse dyes that Dye Spin has. If you're looking for the Dark Horse dyes, they have a separate tab for those or a separate section out on their website for the Dark Horse dyes. They're made and intended especially for ice dyeing. Okay, so I moved the purple pillowcases out of the way and I'm going to do the one pink pillowcase. For this one, I've chosen Raspberry from Dharma Trading Company because Raspberry has some really pretty blue color splits. Once I have the dye on all of the pillowcases, I'm going to place them aside and allow the ice to melt. I usually do not add a second layer of ice whenever I do dye over the top of the ice. So in this case, I waited for the ice to melt, and then I placed the colanders down inside of a plastic tote that had a metal shelf or a rack down at the bottom. I placed all of the purple colanders together in one long tote and then put the lid on top and put them outside. Because it's probably in the mid to upper 90s here right now, if I have them outside, they're going to process a lot faster. My colors are going to be nice and vibrant, and I can rinse them out a little bit sooner. I did the same thing with the pink one. I just placed it in a Tupper tote by itself. I didn't want there to be any kind of contamination between the two colors. Then after about 24 hours, I took them to my utility sink and I rinsed them out. And I did each one of them the same way. I started rinsing in cold water to rinse out the soda ash. Then I warmed the water up to hot, continued rinsing to rinse out the excess dye that didn't bond with the fabric. I untied the pillowcases, and then I actually ran some really hot water in the other side of my sink, put a little bit of Blue Dawn dish detergent in that water, and as I would rinse them out, I would place them in the other side of the sink to soak. When the water cooled off, I changed it out, and I continued that soaking process until my water was remaining almost clear. And if you're wondering, yes, I did put all 4 of the pillowcases, even the pink one, in the soaking water together. The Blue Dawn dish detergent that is pH neutral will help keep that dye from redepositing someplace else on my pillowcase. So because the soda ash has already been rinsed out, and because I'm using the pH neutral Dawn dish soap in my water, I'm pretty confident that I'm not going to have any issues with pink depositing onto purple or purple depositing onto pink. Now, if I was trying to do a design that had a whole lot of white, I wouldn't risk it. I would go ahead and just soak that shirt by itself. But it's not going to cause any issue to soak all 4 of these together. I do it a lot. And if you've rinsed them properly, like to rinse out the soda ash, and then you are using the pH neutral Dawn dish soap in your soaking process, you should be fine. This helps to conserve water and space. I only have 2 sides to my sink. By the way, I'm also rinsing these out in the same order in which I dyed them. So you're seeing them come off in the order of Deep Purple, Good Berry, Purple Twilight, and Raspberry. So once my water is remaining almost clear after the soaking process, then I'm going to place them in my washing machine along with some Dharma's Professional Textile Detergent. I'm going to wash them in a hot water cycle, and at this point they've been washed, dried, and ironed, and so let's see what they look like. Here they are all together with the same order that I dyed them in and I rinsed them in, going from left to right. So Deep Purple, Good Berry, Purple Twilight, and Raspberry. Okay, so let's look at the Deep Purple first. I think it looks really pretty. It definitely does have that red tinge that I was expecting, and it has some other lighter purple colors in it, you know, more bluish, kind of lilac type colors. I've included a close-up so you can see it. And you can see it's got some really cool dye movement where the dye kind of flows and splits. It looks really pretty. The next one is the Goodberry, and this is the one that I actually forgot to sprinkle the soda ash over the top of, but it turned out looking beautiful. It was originally soaked in soda ash, so it had plenty of soda ash in it. I just do the sprinkle of soda ash over the top, kind of as an insurance policy. This one too has some really pretty color variations and intensities of the purple. It does have a little bit of pink in it, and I think that looks pretty too. Compared to the deep purple, this is definitely more of a blue type purple. Okay, so this is the Purple Twilight, and I think it's kind of a combination of the Goodberry and the deep purple. It's got more the blue purple tones, it's got the red purple tones, it has a lot of color variation, and I think the way the dye is, it looks like the dye has flowed or moved. I don't know, it's got a really cool effect to the dye. Anyway, I think this one's beautiful too. You know, it's got some blue splits, purples, pinks, lavenders, orchids, really pretty color. This is a dark horse dye, so it is intended to have quite a few color splits. And last but definitely not least is the raspberry, and I think this is a really pretty color. I love the blue bleed that happens from raspberry. You know, before I had it fully rinsed, there was a lot more blue, but once I rinsed it all the way, you just kind of have that faint hint of blue, like right at the sinew lines. And then I have a couple darker spots, which have a little bit more blue in them. But I think this is a really pretty pink color. You know, sometimes pinks are a little bit difficult to ice dye with. They aren't always quite as intense, but I knew that raspberry worked really well. So that's why I used this one. And I went ahead and actually put a pillow down inside of the raspberry pillowcase so you could see kind of how it looked. And finally, I placed all the colors back together again so you could see them up next to each other, and I've taken photos of both sides of the pillowcases. So overall, I love them. I think they turned out really pretty, and I think that the girls are really going to like them. And I like the fact that they're all just a little bit different. And I also really like the design. I think it works really well on the pillowcases, and like I said, it was pretty easy to do and easy to get the pillowcases done in just a few days' time. But what do you guys think? Please drop me some comments down below and let me know. And if you've enjoyed this video, I sure would appreciate it if you would like it and subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you'll hit the bell, you'll receive a notification whenever I upload a new video. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you have a great day.